Is change something that gives you anxiety?
Not generally. It depends, but I try to take it with a look of like, if I can't do anything about it, there's no sense in stressing about it. And the only thing that I can do is if change is coming. I underwent an organizational change in work earlier this year, and I had a great relationship with my old boss. Felt like he and I were actually becoming like personal friends rather than just like had a good co-working relationship. And then all of a sudden, like I went in one day, found out that I got moved to another team. Never met this guy. I still actually haven't. It's all virtual, but like I like was upset about it for an hour. But then in a situation like that, I think the healthy way to go about it is, I can sit there and shake my fists and fight all the way through it. But what's that going to do? The decision's been made.
I think preparing for change is less of like situation to situation. I think it needs to be more of like a position of our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
My answer to Matt, the question you asked Matt, would be different. It is situational, how I react to change. And maybe not in all good ways.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. If you, or if my wife tells me that something is going to happen, sets an expectation, and then it doesn't happen and something changes.
Sure.
I will react one way. If somebody else that I don't have this great relationship with that's just like changes Matt, somebody, no, but like somebody's like, oh, can you, like, if my wife is like, hey, we're going to go out to dinner on Wednesday night. It's going to be date night. It's going to be great. And then Wednesday at 5:00, she's like, yo, we're not going anymore. Something came up. I'm going to react in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had set up on Thursday night to go get coffee with somebody I met at church, and then at 6:00 and at 5:00, they text me and they're like, yo, I can't make it anymore. Mm-hmm. That change will elicit a different response. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I internalize things based on whether it was in my control or out of my control.
Mm-hmm.
If something changes that was in my control and it changes in a negative factor, then there are things that I go through. If something changes and I had no control over it, then let's handle it different.
Can we, if we lean into that, like, because I think a lot of us are in that spot where we put like, hey, I'm in control of this. Now something has changed. What are the feelings that you feel?
Me personally, I would say it's very momentary regret. It doesn't last very long because there's nothing I can do about it. So if something changes negatively that I could have done something different about, well, don't do that again. Mm-hmm. That sucks. But now what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Now we got to go figure this out.
Because there has to be an expectation that something's going to go wrong. Something's going to happen. The things that are in your control, like, you have to understand that it's going to happen. And you have to accept that and be okay with it, because that's really like, failing is the way to learn the best.
100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's where if I would ask, like, what are the pitfalls of that we walk into when we have planned change, like we have change coming, but we do all this preparation. And it's like, the thing is, like, we're not really planning for change. We're planning for a picture of how I want this thing to look now.
Yeah.
But there are going to be things that are still outside of your control.
Yeah. And I think that's where it comes. It's saying the same thing, but like, how much weight do you put on your expectation?
Oh.
And that's why right. But
Tons.
that's where like the situational kind of things of like, if my wife or someone like you sets an expectation, I'm going to weigh that even heavier than someone else or somebody else or something else happening, and that expectation that goes along with that.
Yeah. Because there are things that change. It could be an appointment, a call, whatever.
Right.
And part of me is just like, sometimes depending on the context, I'm like, whew,
right.
Such relief.
This is great.
And there are other things that's like, oh, I'm disappointed now.
Mm-hmm.